emphasis during your coaching career about not worrying about who starts, and to you, it's more about who's on the court at the end of the games and earns that kind of trust. I know it's still early, small sample size, but it seems like you've got showing some trust in guys like Riley Kugel and R.J. Melendez at the end of games with the minutes they've had on the court, especially against Utah when the game was in doubt.
Yeah, I'm not sure, we have a lineup per se for those situations. It's too early to tell. We don't have enough games under our belt yet with this particular group. It was more that game we had confidence in those guys and, their body of work in just that game, and felt that gave us the best chance to close it out for a number of different reasons, and certainly, who was playing well and who was defending well, and even matchups have something to do with, who you have on the floor going down the stretch. But it's too early to say that, we know what our finishing lineup is, and a lot of it has to do with what we already talked about, but the obvious, foul problems, sometimes come in to play as well. We know there's 2 or 3 guys, I think you guys all know, we'd like to have on the floor when it's hard, but sometimes that's not possible.
We'll stay to coach's left and go to Benjamin, and then the second row and Sam.
What did you learn about the makeup of this group with the way they were able to battle back in that game on Sunday when they were facing their first real adversity of the year?
Glad we won the game, but equally important is we got something in the tank. We got experience with these guys as a team that we haven't had yet, which is to come from behind by double digits. And I said it post-game, and I still feel the same way now, is I didn't know how they would respond. I knew what I wanted them to do. I knew what all of us, fan base-wise, wanted them to do. But we'll use that. We'll be in a situation like that, either in halftime or a media huddle, where we'll talk about that game. We'll talk about, hey, we've been there, done that, and we've proven to be able to, rally around and gain some momentum and flip the script, if you will. So I think that's invaluable, especially early in the season and against a quality opponent too. And so we're certainly going to be in some other situations where we're behind, and to have an experience like that to use, hopefully it will be valuable for us in the future.
I know you talked a little bit on Sunday about Josh Hubbard and the turnovers and the lack of them so far, but I guess just what are you seeing from him when you look at the tape and stuff? Is it just a matter of making smart decisions, or how has that kind of happened so far this season?
Can't speak for him, but from my perspective, the game has slowed down some for him, which is a natural progression for kids once they get games under their belt. I mean, he was prepared to play at this level. You can tell that by his production last year, but he definitely had moments where he got sped up, and, he would make these passes that, we would joke around with him, trying to throw the ball to Jerry Rice. I mean, no one's going to catch that ball. It had so much velocity on it. And you can see his maturation that way. And I really believe that some of it has to do with just the experience, and the game just slows down for kids once they get some game experience under their belt. And, he's just being a better decision maker. And I think the fact that he's in elite shape, helps him throughout the game. Not making mental mistakes that way, and not being tired physically and mentally as much. And so therefore, when you feel like that, you're always best when you're fresh. And when you feel like that throughout the game, it's got to help with your decision making.
Back to Paul, and then we'll head over to coaches Wright and Jacob.
SMU has some pretty good size in the post. I know one of those guys, 7'2", is a freshman, but just got kind of cleared to play and started playing. But when you watched them on film, I don't know how deep you got into them yet, but what kind of grabs your attention about SMU?
Well, you brought up the size. It's going to be the first game that we've played thus far that has, big time size, not just who they start, but who they come off the bench with. They've got quality size up and down their roster, and we haven't, faced that all year long. And we don't have that in our practices. So it'll be different. The court will be shrunk. It'll feel smaller, I think, at times for us than it normally does on the daily. And even in our games thus far, they got one of the best young freshman big men in the country that you mentioned. He's got 2 games under his belt, and I'm sure he'll continue to get better as he gets more comfortable. But you can see the talent and just the way he moves, and he's quite an asset for them. But their strength, scoring-wise, is out front. They've got experienced guards out front. They got 3 guys that can all go get their own. They can all be a leading scorer kind of guy for a lot of different teams. And on any given night, any one of them can jump up and go get you 25. So we'll have our hands full that way. I mean, they can score the basketball from the perimeter. They've got size to shrink the floor, which makes them better defensively. Will be a challenge for us on the backboard, and they got balance. I think the last guy maybe 9.6, if I'm not mistaken. They got 5 guys that are averaging double figures. So I'm sure from their coaching staff's perspective, having balance like that is a luxury.
Coach, Kanye really hasn't exploded offensively yet, but what have you seen from him in other aspects the past few games?
He will. He hasn't yet, but he will. And those that have watched us play have seen flashes of what he's going to do for us. And for whatever reason, it hasn't gotten on the court quite as much as it does in practice. But, there's a lot of new for him. New teammates, new system, new role. And it's a lot for individuals to understand and find their way. But the thing that I love the most as his defensive identity, his buy-in to that end of the court has been really, really good. He played, I think, 15 or 16 minutes in the game against Utah, and his attention to detail, there were some mistakes made out there, and he covered them up for others. He got his strong hands in there and got a loose ball. He ripped the ball away and turned it into offense on another possession. And then the ball is shot, if you're really paying attention. I mean, he's checking guys out that are, 8 to 10 inches taller and a bunch of weight on him, and he's in there battling and doing everything that we ask him to do. And he just hasn't really got it going offensively, but he's certainly going to, and he's going to have monster games for us as the season unfolds.
Back to Benjamin.
Last year's team really had a hard time in those intra-road games. It's obviously your first road test. So what's been the message to the group heading into this week, and what do you hope to see from your team on the road this year?
Looking forward to it. Like you mentioned, we weren't quite as good as we wanted to be on the road last year. We were good in the neutral site games, but we weren't good in old school real road games. So it's a source of pride for us, and I think you find out what you're made of when you're in those situations, and this will be our first crack at it to see what our mindset is when we don't have people cheering for us, when you're not relying on that extra boost. I don't know what to expect. Again, same thing as what I said on the comeback. I know what I want, but we'll see how it unfolds. But it's a great test for us. It's time. The schedule's unfolding exactly the way we hoped that it would in terms of learning and growing early, and then now testing ourselves against quality competition and having opportunities. When we put these schedules together, in the back of our mind, it's always having opportunities to build your resume before the SEC starts, and we're right in the middle of a 5-game stretch where we have those opportunities.
Back to Sam in the middle row, second row.
For Keyshawn to have the game that he did against Utah, how sustainable do you think that is for him, or how can he kind of replicate those kind of performances moving forward?
Yeah, I'm not saying that we should expect him to average 18 and 14, all year long, but we should expect him to be, having really good games. If practice is an indicator of how well an individual is going to play on a nightly basis, then we should expect him to have really good games all year long. There certainly will be some ups and downs like there is for most college basketball players, but he's been so consistent with his approach to practice, and equally consistent has been his productivity. He's been great, and for him to get into the game and to reap some rewards for all the work, makes me feel good for him. And he's one of those guys that everybody roots for because he gets along with everybody. Everybody knows how hard he's working. And for us to be really good, to be frank, he has to play like that. We're a little shorthanded right now in productivity around the basket. And, I'm not sure, in his mind, this is what he, thought he would be doing as much as he is in terms of playing the 5. And who knows, how it will look in a month or so. But right now, he's finding a lot of productivity playing that spot for us. And he's not complained about it, but, he's in a good spot right now.
Anything else for Coach before we let him go? All right.
Thanks.
Just a reminder, we won't have one next week with the travel schedule and football stuff leading to Egg Bowl. So.